I've never needed to fix my own toilet,
Sure.
but I'd watch his videos just because they're super relatable and he's solving problems. And I figured, hey, I'm learning something today. And now if I was in that area, or if I was a plumber, if I knew a plumber who's looking for some kind of a tool for pressure fittings or whatever, who am I going to recommend? It's going to be the guy that every single day is providing value.
Hello, friends and fellow Titans. Today is another episode of the Titan's Tale. Chris G here, and I've got a great guest all the way from Colorado, M. Curtis McCoy. M, I guess I forgot to ask what I should call you.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So I have, when I'm introduced speaking at Caesar's Palace or any of the larger events, because I'm in personal branding, I have everybody introduce me as M. Curtis McCoy. And then throughout the interview, if you just want to call me Curtis, that's fine.
Oh, that's good because I didn't have to ask how to pronounce it, but I should ask you what do I call you? Hey, man. All right, Curtis, tell us a little bit about yourself, would you please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've started all kinds of different companies, everything from a pharmaceutical company manufacturing bioidentical injectable research peptides. We had a cosmetic medical laser clinic. We're doing, smoking cessation therapy and vein, vein reduction, those kind of things. I have had a Christian clothing company, built all kinds of successful businesses, including a telecommunications business called Best Cellular. We still own the trademark on the term Best Cellular, but that company, we had over 250,000 customers a month. And, I learned over and over with personal branding that how important it was to have your own brand alongside of the company as you're building it out.
Mm-hmm.
So now I am strictly helping other authors, entrepreneurs, leaders build their personal brands.
Gotcha. Do you own any of those companies still, or you sell them all?
We've sold most of them. The Best Cellular was a mobile virtual network operator that when the Sprint T-Mobile merger was happening, that crushed hundreds of different mom and pop stores. And we got to a point where, I was working 80 to 100 plus hours a week. Just life sucked, and it kept stripping profit away from the MVNOs. We outlasted most of our customers, most of our competitors by 5 years, but I think my competitors were smarter to get out earlier and not waste all the brain power.
Oh, I understand that. Sometimes that happens. Oh, let me ask, did you stay because pride or a willfulness not to want to quit? What made you stay, you think, longer? And that's something to learn from our listeners.
Yeah, so that's one thing where I was chasing the money with, when you've got any kind of a business, even if you're profitable by just fractions of a penny per customer, 250,000 customers a month is generating some revenue. So even though it was a terrible, I would not recommend anybody go into that business, but we built it out we started the company when I was fighting brain cancer and, had having all kinds of seizures, 7 to 10 seizures a week, couldn't drive, couldn't live alone. I'd lost everything, lost my pharmaceutical company, the cosmetic medical laser clinic, the Christian clothing company, was sleeping on my parents' floor in Crawford, Colorado, with a diagnosis at this malignant glioblastoma brain tumor, told that I had less than 90 days to live. I woke up from a coma with the oncologist had his hand on my mom's shoulder, telling her that I would not be here in 90 days. So started the phone company just as I guess my mom, as I'm sleeping on their floor, had knew that I loved business, knew that I needed to be solving some kind of a problem. And so with the different companies, and as soon as I'm laying there, like I couldn't even drive myself to town, let alone own a retail store. But my mom was going, hey, let's get you doing something. Could you be fixing iPhone screens? Could you be, starting their weight loss clinic, trying to figure out some type of a business there? So I went from owning successful companies to sleeping on their floor, putting up flyers around, different grocery stores and churches and whatever. And when somebody dropped their phone, I watched YouTube videos and figured out iPhone screens used to be super easy to replace. 2 screws at the bottom, little suction cup, and started doing that. Figured out I was the only guy in town doing it. So I was solving a problem for people that was at a reasonable price and providing a solution to something that they didn't, a problem that they had. But as that went on, I overcame the cancer, went to Tijuana, Mexico for some treatment that's illegal in the United States. And as it kept growing, I realized, hey, I don't want to be stuck in one little retail store fixing iPhone screens. So we kept growing it, turned it into a nationwide mobile virtual network operator.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal is, the reason we kept running it was going, hey, it's making money. It's getting, profits going up and up, and everything was good there except for life.
Mm-hmm.
Business was good, but life was.
I assume you had to go through some rehabs, maybe,
You mean rehab as far as for
for
the
your
cancer?
brain. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started Toastmasters years and years ago. This was back in like 2012, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Started doing these Toastmasters classes, just trying to learn to communicate again, and got better and better to where now I'm the president of our 3 local clubs here for Toastmasters International, and just a kind of a cool thing with turning around the issues that I had and using that to help other people now.
How long were you in a coma?
Uh, so I'd been in a couple of comas. They're just short. I think like a day or less,
Oh, okay.
a couple of days, maybe. I don't know. It was, I couldn't tell you a time frame. I woke
I
up
won't
and,
get, I won't get into why I asked you, but why do you think you lost your businesses? Because you weren't there for them?
oh yeah, I mean, these were, running any of these type of businesses were not things where I was, where it was recurring revenue. You're
Mm-hmm.
trading hours for dollars. And the
Okay.
only thing I knew at the time was just putting in more hours, get more people working with you. But I was micromanaging every single section of every business where I had people doing what I didn't want to do or what they were an expert at,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't have managers in place to where I could replicate myself. And
Has that changed today?
yeah, so now this next week here, I've got a new guy that's coming on for Newswire magazine or for Amazon Fire TV. He's got a master's in broadcast journalism. Another guy he's going to be working with that does sales at a college. So he's, financial aid and sales. So they're going to
Mm-hmm.
be working together to help out with the Amazon Fire TV side of it. Still looking to hire some kind of a great editor for Newswire magazine. That's what I do now is all about personal branding. So we put people on the cover of Newswire magazine, interview them on Amazon Fire TV, get people on the 96-foot billboard in Times Square, New York, all those kind of cool things to really take people who are already successful, already crushing it in life and business, and help them to reach massive audiences through paid media.
Right. Well, the reason I asked, I went into a coma on it was a Thursday, and woke up 3 weeks later, 200 miles away from where I originally went to the coma at. And my wife and family they told them if I woke up, and they weren't even sure of that, if I woke up, I might have brain damage. And thank the Lord I don't. And I woke up, but I left them in a little mess there. Didn't have their names on any other checking accounts, and I was the only one. That was all up in my brain what was going on, and people were asking her for got contractors and lot of money, and it all worked out. And we're definitely changed today than we were back then. I've got people working for me and let them kind of handle those businesses. I kind of oversee the big stuff, and my wife and children are my bookkeepers and all my paperwork, and they can sign for what they need to sign for if something bad happened. And best part is if something does happen to me, that the business will continue because they're not being run by me. So
Nice. That's smart.
well, you got to learn the hard way sometimes, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're expanding out and you personal branding. What's the most important thing about personal branding?
Well,
Are
personal
you
branding is,
you
sorry about
already
that.
said people are already crushing it. So what are you doing to make it better? I guess.
So I speak at events all over the country. I've spoken at Caesar's Palace and all over the country on personal branding.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times when they're calling me in to speak, give a keynote speech at an event, it's on the people who are looking for earned media, who are trying to figure out how to build their brand when they don't have a budget yet. So there's 2 different groups of people. One is you're getting your business started, or maybe you've been running it for a little while. Maybe you're public speaking or writing books or whatever it is, and you're trying to get your name out there enough. You realize that recognition is currency. Recognition converts into currency. People cannot do business with you if they don't know you. So on the people that are just trying to get started, there's all kinds of different things you can do to earn media coverage. It's difficult. You've got to do something cool enough to be able to have the local newspaper, radio station, maybe local blog or whatever, write an article about this cool thing that you just did. If you're already doing good business, you're probably more likely to use paid media. I mean, if you got a good business who's doing big things where you're helping out the community and stuff, you've got earned media coming in automatically. And then the paid media is stuff like getting on newspapers, magazines, TV shows, radio, and getting that recognition where it's broadcast globally. If you'd like, I'll tell you how I got into personal branding from owning these other retail businesses. And
We're all about stories here, so go ahead and tell me.
so I had, and at the time when I owned the phone company, I owned 3 retail stores myself. We had over 250,000 customers a month hitting the website. So I was doing okay as far as traffic goes. I had built up over the years, built multiple different brands that were people would know, like, and trust the brand. But what I noticed is when I changed industries, when I sold a business, when something changed with regulations, government regulations, whatever, and you end up going into a new industry, nobody knew who I was. But the real tipping point on that, the kind of the kick in the teeth that let me realize you need to start working on the personal branding was I was down at my retail store in Hotchkiss, Colorado, about 35 miles from the next nearest cell phone store, kind of the middle of nowhere there. And we had a huge percentage of clients. I mean, basically we had all of Hotchkiss, Paonia, Cedar Ridge, Crawford, any of the local towns around there used our cell phone company to activate their service. And we did a ton of business with migrant workers that would send their money back. Guys that were working in the fields, working in the orchards and stuff, sending money back over to Mexico to their family. I had one of my best friends ever we were hanging out doing barbecues, different stuff. He'd go cook the chicharrones, and good buddy was born in Mexico. He had family back in Mexico. So same thing. He was working and sending money back home. But he came in one day and I noticed that our Mexican clientele, everybody was doing the money transfers and international calling and stuff, just started tanking. We were losing customers like crazy. And a lot of these people are friends. People, I'd seen them at barbecues and known them for a long time. But finally, this buddy of mine come in. He said, Curtis, are you having a problem with some of the Mexican customers being upset with you? Or so we're losing all of our people from Mexico. I don't know what happened, but everybody over the last couple of weeks has been porting out, switching to their service. They're not telling us goodbye, not telling us. These are people we prayed with. People we come in the store. You're hugging them, high fiving them, sponsoring the kids' baseball team.
Yeah,
and they're all leaving the store. And so I couldn't figure out what was going on. But he said, "Did you realize there's this other phone store like 35 miles away is telling people that you're racist and you will not allow Mexicans in your store?" That's kind of weird. So I'm glad this buddy knew to come say, "Hey, Curtis, what's
going on?
I'm gonna go check this out." So I had one of my employees cover the shop, and I decided I'm going to drive up there and chat with this other store. So on the way, I'm planning. Okay, do you go up? Do you chew them out? Do you say, "Hey, I'm not a racist"? And whatever I did to defend myself was not going to be great. So I went up there and I walked into the retail store and I said, "Hey, have you guys?" I'm looking around at their phones and stuff, looking at what their service offerings, their international plans. And when they come up to help me out as a customer, potential customer, I said, I started asking questions about it. What's your international rates, your price per minute? Do you have unlimited packages? Oh, these are some good rates, very comparable to what we offered. And I said, well, do you guys know anything about I live down in Hotchkiss. Do you know anything about this Best Cellular store? It's like 30 miles away from here, 35 miles away. But I live right there. I was living in the store at the time. I didn't tell them that, but
literally right there. Yeah.
And so the manager comes out, and it's a young guy. And he says, "Oh yeah, that's that place is terrible. That owner is a racist. He hates Mexicans. He's just going on multiple minutes about talking about what a terrible person the owner of the store was, not realizing that I was standing there listening to everything he was saying, and he was talking about me to me. But so my plans of the things that I was going to say, all the things to try to defend myself and whatever, as I'm sitting there listening to him, I realized this guy has no clue that I own the entire company, let alone that I'm the guy that owns that local retail store. But we're talking tonight, and I got done. I said, "Man, thanks for telling me that. I've heard that around town. This guy sounds like a real dirtbag. That sounds like a terrible person. I mean, if that's true, nobody should. I hope they go out of business tomorrow. That should never be. Nobody should treat their customers like that, especially not letting a certain race or ethnic background in the store." And then He's like, yeah, he's a real loser. I haven't met him, but
You haven't met him, but
and so I take out a business card. I said, man, hey, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for letting me know where this was coming from. Put my card on the table. Says M. Curtis McCoy, president, Best Cellular. Said, thanks for sharing that with me. Hey, listen, I got a little shop down here in Hotchkiss. If you ever need help with phone repairs, if you got a customer you can't activate that doesn't have the coverage on your network, we send people here all the time. You guys are great with the money transfers. So if you need anything, just let me know. And I slid my card across the table. He looked down and saw that my name was the one he was talking about. So I could have got mad. I mean, in the car on the way up there, I'm planning every possible way to get back at this guy. But I was listening. I realized, hey, this is my fault. Nobody knows, including my competitor, my number one competitor in the next town over, had no clue who I was. So I'm building these successful businesses, and people weren't doing business with me, with my phone company because they liked me or because they thought it was a good company. It was just that was the closest, cheapest price
more
around.
convenient, right?
But then I was looking at competitors like Richard Brunson, who is, Virgin Mobile, Virgin Airlines, Virgin Records, Virgin Galactic. And he was a big prepaid wireless competitor as far as the internet sales went. But this guy's built a brand where whether you agree with him, or whether you follow his lifestyle or whatever, he's built a massive personal brand where he can overnight, if he says, hey, I'm going to start a new business sending rockets to the moon. Okay, cool. He mentions it and he's automatically got followers because he built that personal brand that people connect with.
Before I go on to the, did the guy say anything?
Yeah, kind of a look on his face like, oh, shoot. That was, the embarrassed. I didn't have to say anything else or make it.
That's
make
even
it hard
better.
on
Yeah.
him.
In fact, you didn't have to say anything because he knew.
And I told him as I was leaving something along the lines of, hey, listen, man, there's plenty of business. There's more phone company customers here than either one of us could ever handle a small percentage of. Like, we don't need to do business like this, do we? I'd love to keep referring people to you. And he just kind of humbly.
So personal branding. So what do you think Richard Brunson has done that you're teaching other people to do?
He has done, if you're looking at, again, the guy has created a massive following.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that I agree with the lifestyle. We probably wouldn't hang out.
Yeah.
I'm probably not qualified to hang out with this guy as far as the multiple billions of dollars that he's got access to. Rowing my boat up next to his yacht probably wouldn't land me any points there. But what he's done is he's made a business to where people recognize that Virgin brand is him. And so anything, he can get out and talk, do a speech at an event and tell them, hey, I think I'm just like they did with Apple with the iPhone, the iPod and all that.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever watch that announcement, it is phenomenal. His keynote there where he's getting out talking about, it's going to be this personal computer. It's going to be an MP3 player. It's combination of all these things, building up the hype. And then, but people recognized, his following just loved whatever he did. So,
Talking about Steve Jobs.
Yeah, Steve Jobs. Yep.
What is the first thing you do with your customers, your clients about branding?
My clients are authors, entrepreneurs, motivational speakers, podcast hosts, business leaders, people who are already very successful financially, but don't have the reach. So I'm basically helping people who are in the position where I was, making money, but nobody knows you, and helping them to get out there and start putting their message out. I'm also within the next couple of weeks here, I'm co-hosting an event where I'll be speaking about personal branding. And on that, it's teaching new speakers, new authors, new entrepreneurs how to start building their brand. The biggest thing I would say if you're just getting started, you don't have the budget yet to have me put you on Amazon Fire TV or Newswire magazine, those type of things. If you're just getting started, get out and start documenting your journey. People spend so much time. You see Google searches. People are looking for, how do I build my personal brand? How do I create video topics? How do I create something to go viral on social media? It's a lot more difficult to try to create content around a need instead of just documenting your journey. And for example, with personal branding, you'll see on my social media feeds, a lot of times I am sharing stories of, it'll be a Amazon Fire TV video. It'll be a clip from the magazine. There's all these different things where I'm showing my client success. and other people are automatically attracted to that because they, if you Google me, Google M. Curtis McCoy, you'll see on the top, I've got the first couple pages of Google filled up. So that's a good way to see, if you get somebody if you're hiring for somebody for personal branding, Google them. If they don't exist on the first page of Google, they don't exist.
Using their name? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Or personal branding, whatever they're telling you they can help you with.
Sure.
Search them and see if they've helped anybody else do the same thing that they're telling you they can sell you the service for.
How often do you suggest that people post on social media?
It depends on your industry, your network,
Yeah.
but I would say rather than trying to just flood social media, you'll hear people say you need to do 3 to 5 posts every day. If you're a successful entrepreneur who's already crushing it, it could be just creating one well thought out, well planned topic for the day. So give me an example of your target listener. What's their age, gender, profession?
In that 30 to 55 range, people who are either looking for a side gig, they've been in the corporate world and want to become their own boss. Sometimes right out of college, you don't know that, and you just want a job to pay the bills. But at some point, you realize there's more to life than just working for somebody. And so this is a podcast about telling people that it's possible. Other people do it all the time, and we want to learn from their failures and their mistakes and so forth, like yours and mine, and how they can really keep going and don't give up, but build a team. Those are my people that are listening to this show.
So let's say you got a guy right now that's trying to start his own business.
Mhm.
Let's say he's going to become an electrician. Now, I'm not an electrician. I can't tell you exactly what's going to land here, but rather than trying to figure out, 5 days a week, 7 days a week, these social clips, what if you got on every day, grab your phone, and you talk to a specific person about how to solve a specific problem? So you're starting your own electric company or your own electrician business.
Mhm.
You pull up your phone. Hey, good morning. So if you're having a problem with your,
Light switch.
ceiling fan,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Single fan's fine.
Yeah. So here's some tips you can do to troubleshoot that yourself without hiring an electrician. Now it sounds counterintuitive, but now the next day you get on and, hey, good morning. If you're trying to consider whether to switch from incandescent to LED bulbs, here's the amount of savings you can have, but here's some additional benefits. It'll decrease your home's cooling costs. You save on your power bill. It's the LED bulbs last longer. You give those tips. And now the next time you get on, hey, if you're on a circuit breaker, if you're on a problem with circuits tripping, here could be some things that make that happen. Maybe you've got a coffee pot and a electric stove plugged in on the same circuit. It's overloading, whatever it is. But if you're getting out giving those tips over and over, especially when it's tips that here's how you can do this yourself without hiring me, without hiring an electrician. Now people know, like, and trust you. They're seeing every day they're getting on and you're posting these cool tips. Now when it comes time, you go, hey, I got a spot. Just want to let you guys know I'm here for my, the daily tips, but I got a slot that opened up Thursday morning, had a cancellation. If you guys know anybody that needs some electrical work done Thursday morning, give me a holler. You will be flooded with potential customers, people looking to do business with you.
Mhm.
Where if you're providing value,
everybody's names keep coming up. I've seen those before. Yeah.
Yeah, providing value all the time. Roger Wakefield, I don't know if you've seen him, the YouTube plumber.
Actually, I kind of do. Yes, I used to do plumbing myself, and I just like watching plumbing. I know I'm odd, but I like to be plumbing. And since I'm a landlord, I'm just curious on what new ways so I can tell my son-in-law how to do it. So anyway, yeah.
So you're probably familiar with Roger.
Mhm.
There are people I had seen Roger Wakefield on videos on YouTube before I ever met him speaking at an event together out in Texas. But when I met him, I recognized him. He's got the big white handlebar mustache, and
Mhm.
just the coolest, most relatable, nice guy that you'd ever meet. But he got famous to a point where he's got completely out of plumbing. All he does now, they've built out a massive warehouse where they just do plumbing videos, but he's making so much more off of YouTube, doing multiple videos every day, high quality, but solving people solve their own problems. And now he's buying up plumbing tool manufacturers and making a killing on that because now he's the famous YouTube plumber. So when other plumbers are on there watching videos on how to, they're seeing that and they go, oh, Roger just put out a new tool. He has made a killing by just putting out content, not trying to make some kind of a fake customer testimonial, or here's another, your 50th advertisement you've seen this week.
Right.
Where you're just going, here's value, here's value, here's value. I was watching your Roger Wakefield videos sometimes just because I've got no interest in fixing a toilet or I've never needed to fix my own toilet, but I'd watch his videos just because they're super relatable and he's solving problems. And I figured, hey, I'm learning something today. And now if I was in that area, or if I was a plumber, if I knew a plumber who's looking for some kind of a tool for pressure fittings or whatever, who am I going to recommend? It's going to be the guy that every single day is providing value.
What are the problem? It's not a problem I have, but a problem I see, and I just choose. I'm curious if I'm doing the right thing. Do you pick more than one social media plan, or do you just do one?
That's a good question. So if you're hiring somebody, like, we get in and do this for somebody, we're shooting professional video, multi-camera, cutting back and forth, different transitions, making it look cool and professional.
Mhm.
But if you're somebody who is, let's say you're a successful lawyer and you're trying to figure out how to build your brand as the local authority on whatever your area of legal expertise is. Again, just providing value. But if you've got time where you're saying, okay, Facebook is my thing, Instagram is my thing, I would claim all of your profiles. So for mine, if you Google M. Curtis McCoy, I've got Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat, or, Pinterest, whatever is all /M. Curtis McCoy. I would claim every possible profile you can with your username slug. So for yours, /Chris Gilman as your personal brand,
Right.
on every single platform. If you've only got time to do one, figure out what resonates with you best. What one you find the most, the easiest to use, the most visually appealing. That's probably going to be the same for a lot of your audience members. Now, when you're hiring somebody, I would have them absolutely cover all 8 or 10 platforms.
That's what.
But if you only got time, just focus on claim them all, get a nice profile set up, and then really go all in on at least one profile.
I know how to use Facebook. I don't know how to use Instagram, even though it's about the same. But anyway, so we focus on Facebook and LinkedIn, but that's my two favorite. They're pretty simple, been around the longest. But I know there's always something new coming up, and always TikTok. Well, I don't want to do TikTok. Leave me alone. Find somebody else to do TikTok for me.
Well, and not to cut you off here, but documenting that journey. If you get to a point where, can I ask how many properties you run right now?
I'm at 24 now. I used to have 75, and then we cut back.
Oh, well, if you were in a position like, you probably know of Grant Cardone, right?
Oh, yes.
You guys done a little bit in real estate, but a lot of those guys will have Brad Lee is another one. He's a software guy out of Las Vegas, but he's got somebody on staff following him around all day, every meeting, if he's sitting there working, somebody follows him with a camera everywhere he goes, and he's got a staff, or a team on staff that is chopping up those bite-sized
reels and stuff like that.
Yeah, reels, but again, chopping up bits of information that help people solve some type of a problem. So like that, if you get to a point where, say you owned 1,000 complexes, you're trying to do real estate syndication and you need to reach investors at scale, that'd be something where you could massively, hiring a guy to follow you around with a video camera and somebody else do the editing and posting every day. Maybe it's 3 people, somebody videoing, somebody editing, somebody posting, figuring out how to optimize, make sure that, get the good calls to action hooks and those kind of, the nice transitions and all that. Say it cost you, I guess that'd be a little bit more in depth, kind of seeing what your profit on everything is. But if you look at it and you can justify the cost by what you're already making, you might be able to massively expand that reach and gain additional investors for your real estate syndication, those type of things, by just letting more people get to know you. And
more, it would justify you could actually have somebody physically walk around with you, but then the other people could be virtual, which would be less expensive than.
Yeah, there's, can I ask you what made you decide to start this podcast? It's really cool.
I've got several different businesses that are physical, and I want an online business. And we started Prospect HQ, which is a business software, CRM, automation, marketing, digital marketing, and so forth. And I like online business because they're less overhead. And I'm able to use people from the Philippines that cost less, that are very good and dependable. Not that people in America is not. It's just everybody knows how hard it is right now getting good help. And if you're good help, you probably already got a job. So
Yep.
that being said, one of my mentors said, what you could do is get people to know, like, and trust you. And then once you feel confident, then you suggest different tools like Proctor HQ, like your plumber, and say, hey, if you're looking for something like this, try this out. And that's kind of what it was, build my brand so that when people trust me, not that I'm just here for trust, but, if I seriously have a good product, that they'll try it out. And that's what it all started. But then it evolved into really enjoying it a lot. People saying they had a good time and you want to do this all the time. It's like, okay. So I've hired a podcasting coach and we just actually started our YouTube channel last week. And
That's awesome.
by having a team, that's how I'm doing that. I'm having a team because I know I've got too many irons in the fire, as my wife would say. And I know if I don't, I won't get it done. And then I'll be frustrated. So,
Yeah. That's one thing with a lot of successful people. You'll see, same thing with me. I had a goal for years. I wanted to make 100,000 a year,
mhm.
on a, I was working, but then also on a side hustle, I want to make at least 100 grand a year. That was kind of where I thought I'd feel like I was accomplished. And then with the phone company, we surpassed that to where we're 6 figures monthly. And the more we made, the harder it was to step away from work. Because it was going, for example,
Yeah,
with advertising, if I can put $1 in and $3 come out, I was living on ramen noodles and about starving to death because if I pay myself $1 extra, that means that's $1 that could have turned into 3 next month if I would have spent it on advertising. So
it's funny how we get in those mindsets, isn't it? It's like, oh my gosh, what could do this to? It's almost addictive sometimes. I'm not. I used to be that way quite a bit, and not as much anymore. I like to think I learned from some of my mistakes, but I also hire people too that I didn't have before, and because we talk about, somebody's never going to do it as good as you can, and you're probably right. Well, actually, some can do it better, and I realize that too.
if
But
you can afford them,
if you can afford them, that's right. And then I talk about, boy, I wish I had some more Chris's in the world. And my wife just cringes. And so I'm not meaning myself. I mean, you gotta have, you gotta, you gotta be able to turn it loose to somebody who's competent and can do the job. They might not do it like you do, but they get it done
yep,
and get it done properly. And that's like you mentioned micromanaging earlier. I don't like micromanaging, and that's just not me. But I do turn people loose, and then I will correct them. It's like, hey, man, let's do this differently next time, or here's why you need to do it. And there needs to be training involved too. You just can't turn somebody loose. I've been responsible for that too. It's like you get upset, and it's like, why should I be upset? I didn't tell them how it should be done or how it
yeah,
needs to be done. Did it get done? Yes. And this is okay, yeah. But next time we'll just, you got to learn
yeah.
those mistakes. And did you start a business right out? Did you go to college?
I did. Yeah, I've got a degree in aviation electronics, avionics.
Yeah,
Got certified through NASA for ultra high reliability soldering.
through NASA, huh?
Yeah, that's just
Yeah.
a add on with the college that license. It sounds good. I've never made $1 from it. Just like the avionics degree. I graduated. I'm going. I don't want to be crawling around in the belly of a Cessna or working on this. The airplane shut off and you're working in there with no air conditioning and everything is stressful. That was not.
What
It
what
it sounds good to have accomplished it, but it's been worthless in real life.
you know, what event caused you to want to be a business person, your own business person, put it that way?
So I had always, for example, the only reason I went to college for the aviation thing, I wanted to be a pilot. I've always wanted to fly, but having seizures because of diabetes, and then especially with the brain cancer later, that's you can't get a pilot's license if you're having seizures. So I guess I thought back then,
I was
what's
gonna
that?
say that's a good thing you can't be a licensed pilot with seizures. So
But
I don't
you
know.
can get an experimental aircraft, which does not require licensing to fly. So I am looking for an experimental.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway,
Don't shut down my dream here.
the silly rules we got. Oh well, whatever. If it works, it works.
You can smash a whole lot less people with a little experimental
There
airplane
you
than you could
go.
with a
There you go. That
full
makes much
size
more
jet.
sense. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a good thing to. I would recommend any kid. I haven't really used that degree in anything that I do now, but I would recommend kids go to school just for the when I get on, if I'm talking to somebody, I consulted with the United States Federal Trade Commission
Hmm.
on the Sprint T-Mobile merger. Part of that, you had to have a college degree in order to be qualified to consult with them. My degree had nothing to do with what the consulting was about, but
Hmm.
having that degree showed to them, okay, yes, you can complete a project, you can finish hard things, whatever. So I would recommend it. I mean, education is never a bad thing.
Is going into debt for education a bad thing? We're going to a different topic, I know, but
The going into debt for education. Now keep in mind, one of the guys that's coming on to work with me next week is in college admissions. So his entire job is helping students get college loans to sell them, get them in the service there.
right.
It depends. I mean, if you're planning on becoming a doctor, you probably better, I mean, either your parents are paying for you to go, or you've built some kind of another software service or something up to that point before college that you're generating enough revenue. Most times you're gonna have to go into massive debt to become a doctor or you're a
Mhm.
lawyer or
Lawyer. That's why I was the professions, I guess, as we would call it.
but I would not recommend going into massive debt to here's an example. So my girlfriend's got a 7-year-old kid. I would like to make them a permanent part of my life here in the near future. Um, but Remington, the 7-year-old, if he wants to go to college, I mean, I'm looking forward, putting aside money and stuff so that when he decides to go, if he decides to go to college, cool, we can do that. Or also figure out what the college costs. Now, what about starting a business? This kid's a little entrepreneur. He's always trying to sell you something, always trying to figure out how to solve problems. And I'm working with him on that.
Make a
But
dime. There you go.
if you want to go into business, I'd figure out, like right now, we got him a little camera and a tripod and stuff. He goes around everywhere with that video camera. A big part of that's probably trying to be like me, but whatever he's interested in, if we go, okay, you've got this much money to put towards college or your first business, I guarantee that kid's going to learn more starting his own company, even if he fails, even if he works at it for 10 years and has, just failure after failure. Every mistake you're making in business is teaching you something, for the next company. So
That's cool.
yeah, I'd recommend business over college if it's a kid that's mentally qualified, mentally equipped to do so.
Right. No,
What about you? What's your thought on that?
I definitely agree with the lawyer and the doctor. And I guess if you knew you could go to school and get a job, if that's what you really wanted, uh, or even start the business in the degree you got it in. Well, I know a lot of people that either went to go be a teacher and they're not a teacher, or I had a friend that she worked for us and she had a degree, master's in English. Great. But what she was doing had nothing to do with English. And it's like, and now fortunately her parents paid for her college and she's not in debt. I just have a problem with people going into debt with no plan to pay for it. And then it keeps getting more expensive and more expensive.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense to me. And I'll go on this side note here. We got to talking about religion and ministry, and that I'm a Lutheran, and that the Lutherans are having difficulties getting pastors. And we had a discussion about it. And fortunately, right or wrong, a lot of ministers make decisions what church they're going to serve based on their income. So we were having a discussion. Why is that? And I said, well, probably because they have school debt. Well, if you go to the seminary is free, but they won't let you in the seminary unless you have a college education,
Huh.
which makes no sense to me at all. Because if you want to be a pastor and you have a degree in NASA, you could go to seminary, but it has nothing to do with what you're going to be doing later in life with the Lord at churches.
Yeah.
So why make somebody go? They're having a calling, if that's what you feel like. And like I said, this is not about religion per se, but it's about spending money. Why would you want to make them spend money on something that has nothing to do with what they're going to go for? And then you're holding people back. You're holding people back from holding people back from their desire, and you're holding people back from good applicants.
Yep.
Trade schools too. I mean, if you're going to your plumber example, if he's going to hire plumbers, is he better off hiring somebody who graduated college with whatever degree versus a plumber from a trade school with a degree in plumbing?
Yep.
Or it makes a lot of sense, and it has nothing to do necessarily with the college or the university per se. It has more to do with what they're learning and what they can bring to the table and worth ethic. That is the only advantage to college I see. Not advantage, not only, that's not true, but a very strong
Argument for
positive about
college.
college,
Yeah.
for college is that they did go 4 years. There's a lot, if you get good grades and you go, there's a lot to it than just showing up. You got to do quite a bit in college. I'm not downplaying that, but I'm not sure it's worth the expense.
Now, as far as proving that you can get through something and you can stick with it,
Yeah.
there's a sales coach who is crushing it. He's got all kinds of employees that are $1 million a year in sales commissions. You know,
Mhm.
so I don't know what kind of revenue they're selling. If they're 20%, probably 5 million plus a year. If you assume 20% profit, I mean 20% affiliate rate. But this guy will not hire an employee who does not have a six pack. And if you're working for him, you're farting around, you're progressing. You got a six pack and you start. When you
Yeah.
lose that six pack, he will fire you on the spot. So he'll make his sales guys take off their shirt and stuff, which that's pretty harsh, pretty aggressive for most industries. And he could probably have his pantsuit off for
Right.
firing
Discover
somebody for
leadership or something like it. Yeah.
not having a six pack. But his thing is the same kind of thing. When he's hiring the top 1%, top of the top sales guys, and if he said you'll treat your body like you treat your job. So
Hmm.
if you are shredded, if you're watching what you eat, if you're doing the exercise, if you're doing all the work, he knows that kind of person is more likely to do the work for his company than the guy that won't do it. So, I mean, I don't have abs right now either. I need to get back in shape, but
Well, I got abs. They're just covered up with something kind of pushy. You can, you know, but
if when I first heard his thing about he'll fire guys for not having a six pack, I was
Mhm.
thinking, man, what a prick to work for. That sounds like a terrible job. But I also, the more I think about it, I'm like, that's a lot like college where, if I mean, you automatically respect somebody who is, when I walk into a business meeting, you see a guy standing there that's got, just the chiseled jaw and all solid and stuff.
Yeah.
That guy is spending some time doing some
Mhm.
work, and also that he is limiting himself from negative things that he shouldn't be doing.
What product they're selling, because it could be part of that too.
Yep.
I couldn't sell gym. That's the way I'm in right now. Why would I want to buy gym stuff from him? Because he's not living the part.
And that's the thing too, where like with the personal branding, I would have never. You see so many guys that are life coaches or business coaches or motivational speakers who have never overcome. Motivational speaker who's trying to help you overcome adversity. And
Mhm.
if their story is, oh yeah, I grew up in a middle class household. I went to school. My parents paid my bills for me. Now here's how you get to where I am. Why are you listening to that guy? Same thing with a personal branding expert. If you got a guy that says that he can help you get on the billboard in Times Square, New York, if he's not on there, if he doesn't have a handful of clients that's on there, that's probably a good sign it's a scammer, or the guy does not believe in that the service that he's selling you has enough value for him to apply it to himself.
I have asked that before on a people call me. It's like, well, are you using it? Well, no, I just don't have time. Well, then why do you think I have the time, or do I should do that?
Yeah.
And if it's such a great deal and make so much money, why in the world are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I'll be out there doing that. And there's sometimes there's some real good answers, and sometimes there's not. And you can tell what the real deal is.
I had
And
a guy years ago doing podcast promotion. I haven't ran my own podcast in years. I prefer to be a guest on other shows now, and just it's a whole lot less work for more exposure. If
or a
you've already
guest,
got an
oh,
awesome,
sure.
yeah, you already got an awesome questions and really doing a good job highlighting your guests. So like, man, if I'm just a guest, that's awesome. But I had a guy years ago when I was hosting the podcast that was telling me about the value and how I should be monetizing it and how I should all these different tips. I said, "Oh, cool. He's talking about buying subscribers and buying podcast listeners and all this, just the scam junk." So cool.
Right.
What's your podcast URL? Let me check it out here. Oh, sir.
How's
Well,
that
I don't
working for you?
I don't host my own podcast. I just do this for clients.
Say what?
So yeah, I'm like, if you're making so much, if you're helping clients make so much money with their own podcast, why aren't you doing yours? You're either lying or you don't believe in what you're selling.
Yeah. You have to couldn't resonate with that. It would not be me. I just can't do that type of stuff. Tell people things, and I've just started doing podcast interviews, and I've been told that, and it's for a different reason. Actually, exposure is good, and my podcast is great, but it also makes me a better interviewer, I believe, and
Yeah.
just more practice. And that's what we talk about a lot. It's just a lot of things are just practice, becoming useful and getting used to it. I'd have to get used to carrying my phone around and recording myself throughout the day, and I don't think that way. I was like, well, this would be a good content. It's like, okay, but you got to
Yeah.
think that way of what
Yeah.
you're talking about. You really do. It's just creating habits, sustainable routines that then become habits. Really,
Yes, sir.
we actually had a really good time. We've
Yeah, that was cool.
covered the gamut, haven't we? Well, if somebody wanted to get their personal branding improved, how would they get hold of you?
So if you're in a position right now where your business is already successful and you're needing to hire a branding expert in order to grow the brand, to reach more people, impact more lives, reach out to me. So you can Google M. Curtis McCoy. I mean, you can go directly to my website, mcurtismccoy.com, go to news-wire.com. You can check out Success, Motivation, Inspiration.com is our Amazon Fire TV show. But Google me, see if I'm actually practicing what I tell you what I can do for you. I mean, the best possible place to hide a dead body is on page 2 of Google because nobody looks there. So if you can't find me, then don't do business with me. But yeah, it's M. Curtis McCoy. Just reach out and we'll get connected.
All right. M. Curtis McCoy, and there's all kinds of things. Just Google that, but you'll find his website. You'll find all the other social media things as well. And then, obviously, if you are out and about and you can't get to a computer right now or your phone, you can always go to a titanstale.com and you can find Curtis's information there. Curtis, thank you for your time today. Much
Appreciate you,
appreciated.
Chris. That was awesome.
And we look forward maybe having you in the future. Would that be all
Sounds
right?
good. Yeah, I'd love to
All
do a
right.
follow-up.
Cool. Well, I am going to head out. Y'all have a good day.
Thanks, buddy. Good to see you.